Good evening, cult members, and welcome to the Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
Welcome, Star Wars fans. This is our week-to-week episode discussion podcast review of The Acolyte. This one is episode 4 called Day. Pretty sure the next one is going to be called Night because it's dealing with a lot of dualities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A couple of things that we want to discuss before we get into this much shorter episode than what we've gotten so far in this season. One, Star Wars is a big giant buffet. And like a buffet, everything's put out in front of you. You don't have to take all of it.
Right?
You shouldn't take all of it. Some of us are not so great about that. If you don't like the selection, you don't have to take everything. If you don't like a salad, but you like pizza, or if you like Mexican food, but not Italian food, that is your choice. And Star Wars is the same thing. If you like the books and not like the TV shows or the animation, but you like the movies, that's your preference, and that's awesome. And I'm here to have that discussion with you. If you're going to come into everybody's comments and say how badly this show is written, or it's terrible, and my 13-year-old could write something better, and calling out the creators and the people in the show, then maybe Star Wars isn't for you.
Move on down the buffet line.
Move on down.
Go down to the seafood.
You can go watch the DCEU. I had a very interesting interaction this week on the comments from our previous episode, which was the one that broke everybody because apparently we've ruined Anakin, according to the internet. That's not anything close to what actually happened, but sure. But the interaction that I got online was mostly negative for that episode, for lesbian witches and them breaking the story of Anakin. And then the other thing was that people complained about was my shirt that I'm currently wearing. I bought this shirt at Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim the day after Moses Ingram got death threats for being a strong black woman in Star Wars. That's the reason I wear it.
Yep.
I feel that there's been a really good progress. We're not all the way there, but progress moving forward of everyone seeing themselves on screen. And a franchise that deals with totalitarianism on a very regular basis. A lot of people have missed that lesson that is Star Wars. From jump, it has been a political conversation wrapped up in laser swords and spaceships.
Yep.
And not a lot of people are willing to have that conversation. They just want to do the Republican thing and talk over the top of you and not really say anything and push you out. And if that's how you're going to be in the comments of our channel, I will start banning people. Because I want to have conversations about why you like the show or why you don't like the show. But if you're going to attack the people who created it, then we're going to have a much more personal kind of conversation with banhammers and fists and cuffs.
Ooh, fisticuffs.
Fisticuffs. I haven't gotten into a good fight in a while. So with all that, let's talk about this episode. I was good. I was 3 minutes. This episode is the setup for whoever the masked Sith is at the end.
Yes. I mean, we've only seen him from afar, standing on a rock over there with a red lightsaber, so
Yeah.
you know he's a bad guy.
Right.
And a lot of dialogue, he, our master, whatever.
Yeah.
And now we got to see whoever it is in action.
Very short action, but yeah.
But pretty powerful.
Yeah. His flick of Osha out of the way, when he lights his lightsaber at the end, when they're standing face to face, there's definitely a moment of I don't think OSHA's going to make it here.
Yeah.
And he lights the lightsaber, and the way they frame it,
It looks like it goes through her.
Goes
yeah.
through her.
It was like, oh, what happened?
Yeah, and then he flicks her out of the way, and then the Jedi all attack, and then the Sith. We're going to call him the Sith Master for right now until we're told differently. He force punches the ground, causing all the Jedi to back, and that's from the trailer. That's the shot from the trailer.
Yep.
That and them all lighting up their lightsabers. I kind of joked earlier in the episode, like, do we need all these Jedi to go? Jedi, not Padawans and Jedi.
Yeah.
Jedis go to help save Kelnaka from May. Do we need all of this? And then you kind of realize, oh yeah, we need to.
Yeah, it was a good thing that everybody was there. I mean, we'll see what happens, but yeah. So I may be on. I am quickly coming to your side of her May's buddy.
Quamir. Yeah.
Maybe it's him.
Yeah. That's where I'm
I mean, the Sith person is smaller, not like big Kylo, broad-chested, tall, whatever.
Right.
Smaller framed, short. I mean, they were almost just a little bit taller than OSHA.
Yeah.
And he knows a lot of stuff, but he was really, like he knew how to find
Kelnaka.
Kelnaka. I keep wanting to call him Chrysanthemum, and that's not it. And
much different.
Yeah. He knows how to find him. Like, why? Why do you know how to find him?
Yeah.
In this forest that, like, the Jedi are having a hard time. They have this. I'm sure you're going to talk about the tracker.
Yeah.
To find their way through, and then he's like almost on purpose clumsy, and keeps. How are you going to do it? How are you going to kill him without using your light, or without using the force?
Without using a weapon. A weapon.
So yeah.
It really solidified for me this episode. With him tripping over the equipment after they landed on the ship.
Yeah.
Them stopping, OSHA stopping, or May stopping and saying, I'm going to go fight a Wookiee Jedi. I need to take a break and get rested.
Yeah.
And he kind of picks up, like, I'm going to go find you some more water. And he picks up his pack or something with a cloak that feels like a cloak was inside that bag. Like it's all it's all like a bundle. So I can't really tell what it was.
Maybe that was the armor or whatever.
The helmet in his pack. I kept like trying to look at his pack if it had a weird shape to it and stuff.
And why wouldn't you just leave it there? I mean, why do you need to take the canteen or whatever and go find water?
Right.
It's being protective over it.
But then he gets they kind of pull back that idea by having him May sets the trap for him, hangs him upside down. She's starting to come to the realization that her whole process has been to try to find OSHA, or to find out what happened to OSHA. She doesn't need the Sith Master anymore. She's seen that she's alive. She's going to go give up herself to Kelnaka, go on trial for what happened, and then try to make amends however she can.
But you can say that. I mean, he wouldn't have seen. He thought that she was under his power,
right?
And kept like kind of picking at her about that stuff, like trying to get information about what her mindset was. And she didn't really give it to him. So, it could have come as a surprise to him that this is the decision that she has made.
Yeah. I think that was the point where I was like, okay, yeah, this is definitely like there's been enough pushing and prodding and questioning, and then when she returns the questions to him and says, what is your deal with them?
Right.
And he kind of like, oh, you know how he is. He collects people, or what's your deal with him or whatever.
Yeah. He's kind of evasive about.
But the one thing for me specifically Now, I'm a weird person when it comes to cinematography and blocking. I'm a big believer in using blocking to do storytelling. That doesn't always mean that it has to be there, but I am always looking for it.
Yeah.
Also, with cinematography, you can tell the story. A really good example of that was this week's House of the Dragon. No spoilers for that, but Rhaenyra had one line.
Yeah.
And it was all her blocking and the shots that she was in and the cinematography and all that kind of stuff. So with all of that in my head, I was looking at this. When Quemir is with May, he's hunched over and bumbling and kind of like weak and whatever. But when they got off the planet, when they killed Torben, he was the one person who was able to like manhandle her, and got them both off the thing. So you have this person who's coming across with this physical form of hunched over and kind of down and low and weak and whatever.
Small, yeah.
Like you were saying with the frame, his frame is very much smaller.
Yeah.
And the Sith Master's frame is again not Kylo, not Anakin, big framed, whatever.
Right.
And this version that they show is smaller frame but much more vertical.
Yeah.
And I could see it in my head where Khmer could if he just stands up.
Right.
And exudes a point of confidence.
Right.
He doesn't have to say anything, or just kind of that self-assuredness of standing up and kind of projecting themselves. I could see where they match.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm at for right now. It's not Soul. It's not Yord. Though I still don't like Yord. His whole back and forth with Osha about the blaster is so out of left field for me.
Yeah, it was a little weird. Like, yeah, like give me the blaster. Like, why? Somebody obviously.
Yeah.
Was it her blaster, or did somebody give it?
It's the blaster that she shot at May when May escaped.
Right.
And so she's had it with her. And she's a mechneck, so she is one of those people who's used to, if I find a thing, I keep a thing.
Right.
I might need this for something else down the line.
Right.
And especially now that she's on this quest to find her sister, her going into a situation without a weapon doesn't make any sense to me, even if she is a civilian.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of having this... He is by the book kind of Jedi, but is like beyond the...
Well, and he waited until they got off of the ship to do it.
Yeah.
And the two of them were kind of sort of alone, right? So that Soul couldn't step in and go, no, she needs it, right? So it was almost a little like, you need, like trying to not let everybody else see and tell him no.
Yeah.
It was very weird.
It's very odd. I still have my questions about him. I still have my questions that he could be, if May does not live through this series, and they've already discussed the season 2. Like there is a discussion. They want to see how this is all going. We'll have that discussion at the end. But I could see where he's one of those people who could easily be tempted by the idea of strength and power from the dark side,
right,
and get pulled into that way, not out of hatefulness or hurting or anything like that, just that he wants to protect, he wants to do everything the right way, and he needs more power and more authority.
He's a little more rigid and like you said, by the book. And the Jedi, even though they have their issues as well, especially right now, are a little more flowy, and we'll see what happens, and more zen. We'll wait and see what comes to us instead. And he's like,
Soul is very much that, like, kind of very Qui-Gon Li Zhangje has talked about his favorite Jedi is Qui-Gon, and so he modeled Soul after Qui-Gon. So it's very much that bending to the will of the Force, his style, and Yord is very much the. Ooh, I just kicked the camera. I have long legs, by the way. Yord's is very much this is the letter of the law from the Force because I read it in a book, and so this is the only way to do it.
Yeah,
and
I could definitely see him going over to the dark side,
and that is something that's very. I bring up Visions a lot, even though it's not canon. But Visions, the animation, different animation studios around the world do their version of Star Wars, dealing with themes within Star Wars, and a couple of the ones they've done in that is the idea of how do people fall to the dark side, and why do they get pulled to the dark?
Right. Yeah.
And many different cultures have a very similar kind of discussion, not just in Star Wars, but in their own religion and their own philosophy of life and whatever, about falling to the easy way of the dark side and what that means.
Right.
And so this is one of those examples where I'm like, Yord is either going to fall the dark side out of some preconceived notion that he feels like that he needs more power to do the right thing or whatever,
right.
or he's going to break that absolute rule. His absolute, the textbook is right.
Yeah, and something will happen that'll cause him to rethink his...
And the reason I bring that up is because Osho went to him while they were walking through the Irish mountains, apparently, and
with big bugs.
With big bugs, I was out. I told Osho not to touch it, and you went and touched it anyway.
He's yelling at the TV. Don't touch it!
Have you watched a horror film ever? But she asks him, "I'm not going to be able to stop May, and if May needs to be stopped, I need you to make sure that it happens."
Right.
Now, when that conversation is happening, we're not to May deciding.
Right.
That
she's not going to do it.
She's not going to do it. So I think May has her own suspicions of Quamir as it is. So that was one of the things that I didn't bring up when we were talking about Quamir and how he's the Sith Master.
Yeah.
But I think she has her own questions about him.
Yeah.
Because of the way he was evading questions. And
yeah.
Stuff like that, which leads her to the decision to do her own.
Yeah. She seemed a little like, huh. Okay.
Yeah.
And then who killed... the Wookiee.
Kilnaka.
Kilnaka.
It's definitely the Sith. May makes the point of saying he's here.
Yeah.
And then she looks out the door when he kind of floats into out of focus behind Osha.
Which, just thinking about it, who was the only person that knew what she was going to do?
Right.
And then she walks in there. And he's dead.
I'm saying it wrong. I know I am, but just be nice in the comments.
She walks in and he's conveniently dead. So now it's going to look like she did it.
Yeah. That was my first thought when she walked in, and she was... I was beginning to believe that she did actually want to start the process of trying to come back to the light. And when she walked in, my first thought was the Jedi are going to walk in on her with Kilnaka with a big slash across his chest from a lightsaber and accuse her of doing it, but we never got there because the Sith Master showed up, and so I think the start of the next episode is going to be the fight, like the fight between him and all of the Jedi, and not all of the Jedi are going to make it.
Yeah.
I think Sol will make it. He's the only one left. And they had the Jedi Council subcommittee meeting with Vernestra about who May is and who's her teacher, and they had a conversation of a rogue Jedi. They didn't say Sith. They didn't mention Sith. They didn't mention dark side.
Is Sith like a thing right now, though? Like, is it well known?
So at this point, in the prequels, which is another 100 years from here,
right?
When Qui-Gon goes to the council and says, "I did encounter a Sith Lord,"
right?
one of the Jedi Council said the Sith have been extinct for more than a millennia.
Oh, okay.
So the Sith are known to Jedi,
but it's not going to be the first thing you think of.
It's not going to be the first thing you think of. Everyone that is alive at this point in time for the Jedi, including Yoda and Yaddle, all of them were not alive when the Sith Jedi War happened, and Darth Bane killed all of the Sith in the battle because he realized that maybe his view of the dark side was not the best, and so he killed everybody off and left one apprentice, and that's where the Rule of Two was created.
Right.
But it's been, at this point in time, 800-900 years since that happened. So nobody who is here is alive was there when that happened.
Right.
So it's like that mythos that kind of religion has a little bit sometimes too, of like the Great Flood. Every major culture, every major religion has a version of the Great Flood, not just Christianity.
Right.
A lot. I've been watching a lot of Ancient Aliens, but it's that idea. We all know about the Great Flood. Everybody on Earth has heard some kind of version of the Great Flood.
Right.
But we weren't there, so we don't know for sure. And that's what the Sith are at this point in time for the Jedi.
Right.
So when they're having that subcommittee meeting, they're of course they're not going to say Sith. They're not going to say dark side. Their first comment, one of the first comments was, what rogue Jedi is teaching her.
Right, because she knows the Force and she knows, how to fight, and so obviously someone with Force awareness, Force training is training her.
A thought I'm having right now, because we talked about it with Mother Anastasia last week, and their version, the Coven's version of the Force, they call the Thread, and a lot of the things that they were doing and that she was doing in her usage of the Thread, the Force, is much the same way that May uses the Force, with pushing and dodging and moving and martial arts and stuff like that. And one of the conversations we had last week was, I hope to see more of the Coven, just not this one episode. I wonder if one of the things that was going around all week is the Coven contacted this Sith Master to create the girls, to create a child, to help create a child through manipulation of the midichlorians or the Force or the Thread or whatever you want to call. And they didn't expect to get two.
Right.
One much more light, one much more dark.
Right.
But
that goes with the Rule of Two.
That goes with the Rule of Two, but it also goes with the idea that the Force wants balance.
Right.
And so the thought for a lot of people was, maybe they staged this fire, they staged all of their deaths to make it easier for Osha to leave. May actually does live, and part of the bargain was Osha learns from this Sith Master.
May learns.
May learns from this Sith Master.
Yeah, maybe.
So it's just kind of an interesting kind of sidebar, whatever.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a couple of cool things that we got. We got Basil this episode. Everybody's been talking about him online. He looks amazing. He's a tracker. We need a tracker for the tracker, apparently. But cute creatures in Star Wars, I am here for it every time. He looks amazing. We also got a member of Plo Koon's race, the Caldor. That's what Plo Koon looks like, and Plo Koon's the master who finds Ahsoka. Now, it is in Legends, Plo Koon's race lives 300-ish years or whatever.
Okay.
But in modern canon, they haven't really established it that way. It's more like 170, a human lifetime. Let's put it that way.
Right, or a little bit longer.
A little bit longer. So I don't think that Jedi that was with this group of Jedi to go get Kelnaka was Plo Koon, but it is a member of his race, and he has to wear a mask. And we got a reference to Plo Koon's race in Andor with the apparatus that they need to wear to breathe oxygen, because their planet is mostly nitrogen, if I remember correctly. And so it was cool to see that character. That's a race that we haven't really seen in a while.
Yeah.
There was a couple other members of the Jedi subcommittee that I recognize, but the fourth compressor on the left is a TK-7483. Like, I'm not that kind of guy. But it was interesting, all of the different types of aliens and Jedis that we got in that meeting room.
Yep.
One of the discussions about Vanessa Rowe so far has been the original. It hasn't been said, but many people have believed that role was supposed to be for Yoda, but having Yoda be the stern, not by the book, but the stern, making the hard decisions leader is not really Yoda's kind of MO at this point in time. So having her be there, but she was very much against Soul going off to get May and kill Naka. Like, she was very much against it.
But I mean, she let him go.
Yeah. By Soul convincing her that I'm going to use Osha to get to May.
Yeah. I mean, she's not unbendable, but she has opinions, but she's willing to listen to other people's opinions. And
but she's also much more stern that for what they need for the story. She's much more stern than what Yoda.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
And then the May Osha conversation back and forth. Specifically to start with was the Jecki Osha conversation after Jecki's training in Coruscant, and Osha saying, "I'm going to go. It's May is the Jedi's problem now.
Yeah.
I know that she's alive. I can't be part of stopping her." And Jecki has a thing for her. Like, there is a vibe there.
Yeah, I feel like there's a vibe there. Maybe they're just, good friends because they're both about the same age, but yeah, there could be a vibe.
There's definitely a thing. And Jecki made a point of when Yorg had his robes off and he was steaming them, and she told him, like, put your robes back on. Like, but there's been a few times where Daphne King has done like some side eye at Osha, kind of like just looking at her like she's in that teenage kind of inquisitive time, and so but May saying, I'm out, I'm leaving, I'm done, this is the Jedi's problem, and then Osha saying that, and then May's doing the other end of that, where I don't want to deal with whatever the Sith Master. I'm going to be safe if I put myself in. So they're both being pulled towards each other now.
Yeah.
Compared to the last episode where they were being pushed apart from each other.
Yeah.
And the last episode, May was very stern in her. I want to keep everything the way it is because I want to be able to control everything. I want to be with my sister, and I don't want her to go anywhere and do anything. And now this episode is kind of they're wanting to kind of maybe work back to each other,
right,
to either protect each other or to be with each other or whatever. They both had comments in this episode where they were like, I want to come back to each other.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
I think we went we're 5 minutes short of this was a short episode.
It was a short episode.
Leslie Headland said the episode that she's excited for everybody to see is episode 5, which is next week, which is probably going to be the big Sith fight. Sith Master fight with all the Jedi. Now, like I said, not all the Jedi are going to make it. I feel like Soul's going to make it.
Well, there was a lot of quote-unquote red shirts there.
There were a lot of red shirts there, yeah.
So you've got some collateral damage.
Although we did have Soul tell Osha that we are going. I'll explain everything with you about. I'll explain everything to you once we get May back to the ship.
Yeah.
And we both went, well, that's in storytelling. That's
somebody's not going to make it.
That's Chekhov's Soul's dead. Like that's Chekhov's
yeah.
gun that Soul's dead.
Or May's gonna die, or Osha's gonna. Right. One of the three of them is not gonna make it back to the ship to hear this story or to tell this story.
Right, and when the lightsaber went off, I'm like, So,
expectations.
Subversion, yes. At least for this episode, but we'll see what happens with the overall story as we go forward. So, let us know what you thought of this episode. Like I said in the beginning, if you want to have a reasonable conversation about why you like or dislike this show, I'm here for every bit of it, and we will be we'll be listening to what you want to say. If your complaint is that it's bad writing, I want to hear why it's bad writing.
Yeah.
There was some dialogues delivery in this episode that is very George Lucas dialogue.
Yeah.
I don't want you to hear that George Lucas is the savior. Go back and watch those movies because the dialogue is rough at times.
Oh, yeah, it is.
But it wasn't enough for me to pull me out of what they're trying to say in this series.
Yeah.
But I want to have that conversation with you if you're willing to have some critical thinking about the episode as it is. But also like the video, and if you're on the podcast feed, please follow us on the podcast feed. Follow us here on YouTube if you're there too, and follow us on all the social media stuff: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. It's all free. It's nothing to click a button, and it helps us out a ton. And until next time, cult members, for light and life.